Mm.
Sometimes as a woman, that's what you're doing, or as a man, you're going like, these are my standards, these are my standards. But you yourself are not of high standard to qualify for what you're saying you want.
Okay, I think you're firing shots now. That's why I like you.
Yeah. So
To
so
anyone
you
who's listening. Mm-mm.
so so that's the point I make, that
Yeah. Good evening, guys. Welcome back to another podcast. I don't know by the time this airs whether it will be evening or morning, but whatever time of the day is, I just want to say hello. I'm back again today with another podcast that I'm very excited about, to talk about some of the things that young women should know about. As you all know, love makes the world go around, and it's Valentine's season, and I do hope that you get your flowers, babe. I do hope that you get a message from your loving somebody, and if you don't, that's okay. We can always love ourselves, but even then, love is that powerful force that makes the world go around, and all of us in some way have either been in relationships, or we are looking to go back, or we're taking a break. Whatever that case may be, love is just a beautiful thing to have. And I just want us to explore with another guest where we talk about some of the things that women should be wary of when we're talking about dating and relationships. So I hope that you guys will enjoy it. To all my returning subscribers, I just want to say so much love to you all. And if you're new here, I also want to say welcome. Thank you very much for joining me in this episode, and happy Valentine's to you all. Stay tuned. Hello, Uncle T. Welcome.
hey, how you doing? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you
Okay.
very clear as well.
Okay, I'm using an external mic, so I just wanted to make sure that it's working. How's everything going?
Everything is going well. Everything is fine. I was at home today, so there was a lot of sleeping and taking lots of naps. So yeah.
It sounds like you're showing off because I've been working, so uh, I'm not happy for you, actually.
No, no. Do you know what? People in the corporate world are never happy for us when we take a nap. But we work crazy hours, so taking a nap is a reward.
Nah, I hear you. I hear you. That's cool. I do
Yeah,
take some naps here and there, so
yeah.
but
Awesome. How's the family?
the family's well.
Mhm.
One day at a time, but it's
Yeah.
not easy. But we are able to make it through.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. It's different kind of challenges. I think I remember someone saying that blessings don't come free of responsibilities. So
Oh, yeah. Actually, they actually come with responsibilities. That's how I
yeah,
take it. Yeah.
yeah. They. I think sometimes we think just because something is a blessing, it comes easy, but it's not always.
Yeah. Yep. That's totally true.
Yeah. Well, welcome anyway to my space where we basically just chant about random things that are very close to my heart, just having meaningful conversations. And I think since the first time I met you, you always had a very good sound and very sound advice that I thought this would be interesting to have that conversation with you, particularly to the kind of people that are on my platform, which are mostly young women that are also looking for advice. And some of them would never have the opportunity to have a male figure with
Mm.
ulterior motive just say, hey, this is how the world is looking like. Either the people that they meet who tell them something, either want something in return, or they just are broken and are just looking to spread their brokenness. So it's just to kind of stimulate healthy conversations so that we can all be healthy.
Mm.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate that. I don't know if I make sound points, but I appreciate that you you
No,
view
you
my points
do.
as
You
such.
do.
I appreciate that. But I'm a strong believer in the idea of as iron sharpens iron, so does one man sharpen another. that
Mm-hmm.
our responsibility is to one another to improve each other. So whatever
Yes.
little nuggets I have, I share,
Yeah.
so that for the things that I've experienced, someone doesn't need to go through them. They can
Mm-hmm.
just learn from what I've experienced and take something from that.
Yeah, yeah, awesome. Anyway, so today I wanted us to talk about basically just kind of things that what things that young women should know or be aware about. So I
Mhm.
always feel like particularly for young women, you are either in a relationship, you're looking to be in a relationship, or you've just come out of a relationship, you're brokenhearted, or you're just normally either of people tend to be in one of those categories
Mhm.
where love, unfortunately, as much as we may say we don't care about it, it is a force, and that's why that says there's no greater force than love, and we're all looking for love in some way, whether in friendships, whether in romantic relationships, whether in family. We're all looking for love in some way. So I just
Mhm.
think that this is a topic that we should really explore, because it's one of those things that I think once you reach your 20s, 30s, that is probably one of the emanating subjects that is at the very top of your list, or whenever you meet a relative, they want to know what is going on with your love life. So
Yeah.
that's the topic.
Yeah, definitely. I totally believe that the one thing that defines human essence is the idea of connecting with other humans.
Mm-hmm.
So you've noticed that most people, when they're dying on their deathbed, where they say you have the greatest level of clarity to your life, no
Mm-hmm.
one is asking, can you bring my spreadsheet? Can you bring all these
Yeah.
things that we go through life worrying about? Most of the times they're asking for their families, their loved ones, because
Mm-hmm.
that's what really matters in life. And one who has actually, I can go on, but there's an experiment that they did at Harvard. I think it
Mm-hmm.
started in the 1950s. They've been running this thing up to this day to see who are the happiest people. They took people from different pools of life, like social class, different income levels,
Yeah.
different races, and everything, and culture. What they came to the conclusion of is that people who have the best relationships with their loved ones are the happiest people. So
Mm.
relationships are the paramount. It's the most paramount thing that we can have as human beings.
Yeah. And I think in the same regard, it's also one of those things that, people that are in healthy relationships are the most happiest. And also, just also looking on the other opposite side, is that a relationship can also mess you up.
Oh yeah.
That if you're if you're unequally yoked in the wrong relationship, it has the potential to break you. Whereas
Mhm.
on the other hand, it's got the ability to build you. So my first question to you is, before you go in the dating scene, what are some of the things that you should be aware of as a woman before you are even with somebody? What would you say from a male perspective? Like, this is what we should be aware of before we consider dating.
About, aware of as in yourself or
Yeah,
the
just aware
opposite.
of. So this is me. I'm considering going into dating. I'm not seeing anyone, but it's a thought. It's an idea that I would like to be in a relationship with
Okay.
someone. Yeah.
I think obviously this one is going to be the obvious one. I think we've shared this to a degree, is
Mm-hmm.
the idea that you should be prepared. You should know that you're prepared, and you shouldn't be going into a relationship so that someone else can complete you. There
Mm.
should be a level of you feeling that you're complete. I went to a Catholic university, so we were required to take theology classes. One of the things that my professor, who's a reverend, used to say was, when two people get married, they walk in there with their own luggage or baggage of issues.
Mm.
And you come in with yours as a woman, I come in with mine,
Yeah.
and we put them down in the living room and go like, here are mine. So
Yeah.
you have to try to ensure that you don't have, obviously we cannot be perfect human beings, but there are
Mm.
issues that you can know that you need to work on yourself so that the other person who's coming into the relationship with you is not paying the price of the traumas you have lived, or the traumas that you still have from childhood, or
Mm.
even the past relationships, because some people, some men or some women are paying the price of your toxic relationships you've had in the past.
Mm,
So you
mm,
have to fix yourself first before you enter into a relationship. That's number one. Number two, I would say there should be clarity in terms
mm.
of what you're looking for.
Yeah,
You should know specifically what you're looking for. And it's something where when we talk about it, I think sometimes we talk about do not settle. But
yeah.
sometimes there are things where they're trivial.
Mm,
I think last week I watched a video of a girl who was saying, I don't know if you saw the video, but I'll send it to you if you want it. Basically, one girl was asking the other girl, if you find a good man,
mm,
you should be able to keep him. And she responds with saying, well, sometimes a good man is not good enough. And the girl was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, maybe he has everything. He has a good job. He's a good father. He's da 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 da. But he just doesn't have a good sense of humor.
mm.
You know, like there are things
Yeah,
that maybe, I'm not saying, I'm not trivializing having a sense of humor, but
yeah.
there's some things maybe are trivial. And you have to look at true values that you have, that
Mm,
you value yourself, not based on what society has told you. So I think when you have that sense of clarity, now when you meet that person, you have to be clear and in terms of where are we going. And that's why even when we have discussions, let's say on Twitter with people,
mm.
and people have these terminologies when talking phrase, I just go like, there's no clarity in terms of
Yeah.
what you guys are trying to head to. You know, me and when I met my wife, the second conversation we had, I told her straight up, listen, because she even told me like you were too forward with me as far as
Yeah.
communication. I told her like my intentions are noble. I'm trying to
Mm,
see if this thing works out so that we can take it to marriage. I
mm.
told her straight up. So there wasn't wasting each other's time,
Yeah.
because a lot of times people will go into this dating phase and the other person is just saying, I'm just here to kick it. And here
Mm.
you are sitting for the next 1 year thinking this guy is going to take you to marriage when he's just there to kick it, because no one actually had a conversation to clarify what it is that we're doing.
Yeah.
Before you get on a bus, you have to know what the
Where
destination
the
is.
bus is going. Yeah, that's
Exactly.
true. Yeah. And I like that to say like you need to like how you did it with your wife, because I feel like right now the society, if a guy comes in, and I think we joke a lot because I think particularly the Nigerians, they're like that. They'll meet you first day and then the next thing is I want to marry you. And people people's like, you don't know me, and it's like but what do you want? But then at the same time you
uh,
are dragged on talking stages, and I think recently there's been
yeah.
this thing now where people are now saying no, 3 months is the maximum, because
Mhm.
I ideally it's like you should know what you want, and some people I just will drag you for as long as you allow them to. And I
Mhm.
think I like that analogy to say before you get on a bus you should know where that bus is going, and if you're the bus driver and a passenger is trying to go somewhere else where you're not going, you should also tell them like, hey,
Yeah.
this bus is not going that way. So yeah, I like that. So I'm more of a courtship, but I don't know whether that was just because of church influence or growing up in a Christian home. I was always taught to date to marry. So
Mhm.
dating was always with an intention of marriage in the end. And I
Exactly.
have been married before and
Mhm.
I'm back again. But even then, that was always the thing that I was always so. So I was never into casual dating. And I think one of the things that if I meet someone and they say, let's just see where this goes, that's a complete turn off for me, because I'm like, let's just see who's gonna decide. You should know what
Yeah.
you're looking for. So
And
what
you
would
know
you
what?
say?
Sorry, just wanted to
Yeah.
interject you on that. You'll see that with most things that we value in life, we never have such an approach
Mm,
to when you go to university, you don't go to university saying, let's see how this thing goes.
mm, mm,
Because you value your education, you
mm.
value your career. You don't go into the job market going like, let's see how this thing goes. You don't go for
Yeah.
an interview, let's see how this things go, how this thing goes. But how,
Mm.
why is it then we trivialize when it comes to dating? Let's see how this thing. No, everything that you value highly, which I would think that dating with the intention to marry shouldn't be
Mm.
something that you go like, let's see how this thing goes.
Let's see how this goes. Yeah. It should
Yeah,
be intentional. Yeah.
very
So
intentional.
Yeah. So what would be your view? Are you like what would be your advice dating versus courtship? Because I think there's a lot of people that and not to judge anyone or to impose my it's not my preference, but I've heard people that are talking to multiple people at in one go. And then if you then say, no, I just want to get to know one person with the intention to marry, and they say, oh, how will you know that this is the right person? And I'm like, do you need to try as many to know that this is not the right one, or shouldn't you base it on your requirements? So what's your view on like dating versus courtship, or do
I
some
am
people view it the same?
so I'm for courtship because that's how I approached when I was on the marketplace, right? It
Mm-hmm.
was purely courtship. So as far as can you do multiple people? If you choose to do that, because you're not going to be you I mean, technically, you're not held to one person. And if you're
Mm,
doing it, let's say from a really noble position where, let's say, there's no sense of intimacy, but just to get to know people,
mm,
there has to be transparency between the people who, if you're doing a multiple, like, hey, I'm talking to multiple people,
mm,
but then you clarify also that, hey, there's no intimacy, it's just me getting to see who's more viable for the
mm,
intentions I am heading towards. So if you want to do that, let there be transparency. It shouldn't be something where someone then finds out that,
mm,
hey, you're talking to this person and you're talking to me at the same time. But ideally, I would think it's more optimal to be sequential,
mm.
where you're doing it one at a time. This
Yeah.
doesn't make you move on to the next. Simultaneous, not ideal. Not ideal. I think even the people you're with won't take you serious. So
Yeah.
it's ideal to just do it sequentially.
Yeah, plus it's also the quality that you're able to provide, because I already struggle
Yes.
already with the people in my life. So to be able to avail myself for so many people and engage in very healthy conversations, it will be very difficult to do for me personally, which is one of the reasons why I wouldn't go that route.
But not only that, but just to piggyback off the word you use, quality.
Mm,
There's no realism. If you're a person who considers yourself a, 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 a person of standard, there's no way you'll be able to secure multiple women of standard.
mm,
You see what I'm saying?
yeah,
So you having so many women around you, I'm thinking to myself, maybe you're not good at choosing. You
mm,
make poor choices, because if you're doing high quality men or high quality women, they cannot be that many. It's
mm,
impossible, because quality comes in. There's a scarcity in quality.
yeah,
Right now you're on the market, right? Is there an abundance in quality? So if you're telling me you have an abundance of prospects,
yeah.
I'm starting to question. You don't see an abundance of that.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely. Like, yeah, quality does it gets even fewer. The more you actually look at it, and I think the more healed you are, the more you start to see things you don't even have to tolerate. Because I think sometimes not sounding like shots fired, but I think the more healing you require, the more people you're gonna have. But once you're healed, you can easily see things. You don't need to have to talk to someone to find out who they are. You can just see, like, no, this is not going anywhere. Like,
Yeah.
just from looking at you and from the way we talk, the initial conversation, me and you could never get along. And there's no need for me to stay around and find out. I feel like when people stay around, it then goes into that line of like, are they looking at the potential, or are they looking at the superficial? Like, yeah, but he's tall, or he's got money, or he's got whatever. So you're trying to now put in the things that you're looking for. You now staying around to see if you can find them, but at the very first instinct, like, this is not going anywhere.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
Yeah. So my other question is, how do you know if a guy is serious about you? Because obviously now
Mm.
there's these times, and I saw a video that said that a guy knows within a very short space of time whether you are somebody that they would like to spend the rest of their life with, or whether you just, yeah, let's just hang around. So how do you know if someone is serious about you? And I think for me, this is key. Like, how do I avoid getting my time wasted by
Mm.
people, especially guys?
so so the number one thing I always tell people
Mm,
is him introducing you to his family and also his friends.
mm.
Yeah. So, but we've heard stories of these sociopaths who will
I
come
know
and introduce.
exactly. You know
Yeah,
everyone.
they do exist. They do exist where they'll come
Mm,
and they'll introduce you, and they actually have a wife. You know,
mm,
but it, the thing is that is the number one way you can tell. Then
mm,
also there are other things that you can look at beyond that, and it's the conversations that you're having.
mm,
You want to see that someone is also talking to you with a sense of having a future with you,
mm,
those conversations. So you pay attention to it's in the simple things,
mm,
like I would what's your take, even them asking you questions about what's your take on on taking kids to, these are trivial things like
mm,
would you like your kids to be at a Christian school, would you like them to be at a public school? you, these conversations can tell
mm.
you a lot whether someone is actually invested for the long haul.
Yeah.
And if they're not, they don't have conversations about long term. So you
Mm,
always constantly are talking about, vibes.
yeah. Vibes
But
on
if someone
vibes.
is now having conversations about serious things that regarding your long term relationship together, that
Mm,
that is also a green flag. But then they introduce you to family. That's a good thing at the same time. And also just they also start including you in their plans and
mm,
decision making. So, for instance, let's say I get a job. Let's say we both live in London, right?
mm,
Then I get a job where I have to move to France.
mm.
I don't just up and leave. I start
Yeah.
having conversations with you. So, if I go to France, how's this thing going to work out? Then you
Yeah.
go like, what's your plan? Then he goes like,
Mm,
oh, my plan is in the next 1 year or something like that. But because also remember another thing, like we were talking about other important things in a person's life, such as education, career.
mm,
Someone has to have what we call in finance a performer, which
mm,
is something where you outline in 2 years, I want to project that I'm going to sell so many widgets. In the next
mm,
3 years, we have that even in our personal lives. We go like,
mm,
in 2 years, I want to be here, I want to be here. If someone is not having conversations about telling you that they plan to, if you are ideal for them, they plan to marry you in the next 1 year or so, there's
mm,
no discussion. We're just winging it. That's a red flag. So you
mm,
want someone who has clarity, just like they have clarity with other things. So you cannot have clarity with your career, clarity with your education, clarity with your investments, but you lack clarity in the relationship. I find
mm.
that odd.
Yeah. Yeah. And on that point, is there how do you best approach it as a woman? So in terms of if a guy is not giving you clarity, or just saying, oh, let's just go ahead, or let's just vibe, but maybe sometimes it's serious, maybe you have serious conversations, but there's no like dates or anything, like, oh, within a year. And then if
Mm,
you ask for those times, then
it
it's
should.
kind of given like you're putting pressure on them, or you're trying to move
Mm,
the thing faster than what it actually is. How do you balance the thing of like, I just need to know, like, because someone could say, oh, I plan to marry in 6 years, and you're
mhm.
thinking, I'm probably 30 now, and by 36, and then if we're thinking of having a family, I'm getting
Six
old.
years.
So you know what I mean? So that balance of like, what are we
Say
waiting
less.
for?
Let me answer the question for you. Say less. Let me
Yeah.
tell you something. Like we were talking about other things we're looking at where people have clarity.
Mm,
If you have something that you truly value, like let's say for me, like when there's one time there was a land we wanted to buy. I'm like,
mm,
this is the land. I come to my wife. We had just done another project, so we don't have money right now. We like,
mm,
like this is the land, and we had to go to my mom, borrow money. We went
mm,
to her mother's mom to borrow money, and we finally got the land.
mm.
then we obviously we did pay them back. Just wanted to
Mm.
put that out there.
Yeah.
But the point I'm making is when you have something that you consider as valuable,
Mm.
there's no way you're sitting there and just going like, in the future, somewhere in the future it's going to happen. You want
Mm.
to make sure that you secure it, because your thought processes, if I recognize the value that this person has,
Mm.
are the people to recognize the value.
Mm.
So someone who truly finds value in you wants to secure you.
Mm.
So if they're looking at it like, give me 6 years, give me, because I engaged my wife in 3 months.
Okay.
3 months, and the next year we're married.
Mm.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the point I'm simply making is because I'm scared someone else might take her.
Mm.
But if you see a situation where someone is prolonging the relationship, for me, it's a red flag, because what it tells me, not in all instances, sometimes there are people who are trying to ensure that maybe they're trying to get their finances right. I didn't have my finances right. I was still in college. We got married. We were like what we consider the IKEA couple. The IKEA couple is a couple where they just don't have it together. Their
Mm.
money is just simple. They're going to IKEA, assembling
Mm.
furniture
Okay.
together.
Finisher.
That was us when we got married. We used to live in an apartment where, like I think I think it's called the Section 8
Mm.
apartment, where you have those people who are being supported by the government to pay
Yeah.
for their.
We've
That's
got
the
those
kind of
ones here as
when
well.
we're married, and people are like, "You guys stay here?" Yeah,
Mm.
but because I was still in university, I told my wife, if we find something more expensive, I might not be able to finish my college. But the
Mm.
point I'm simply making is I knew I had to secure, even though my circumstances are not perfect. But there are others, obviously, exceptions where someone is trying to make sure that they have their ducks in a row. So
Yeah.
that does happen. But there has to be a sense of urgency for someone who truly values you to make
Yeah.
sure that you move on to the next level.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like that. But on the flip side,
Hmm.
um, how do you balance securing someone because you acknowledge the value that person has and you don't want to lose them, versus a thing of you're not sure and you just want this person, so you don't want anyone else to have them, but you're not really, I don't know, like what can I say,
Yeah, but that
almost.
it goes back to the word we're using, clarity. You like
Yeah.
clarity.
Mm.
So that means you have to work. It goes back to the earlier conversation of you working on yourself,
Yeah.
because dating. Remember, we are just using this word, but obviously we're talking about courtship, right?
Yeah.
But let's just use dating marketplace, right?
Mm.
So if like any other marketplace, if you
Mm.
are someone who's going into a marketplace where you are an accountant,
Mm-hmm.
you shouldn't be someone who takes forever to analyze a spreadsheet. We
Yeah.
expect you as a specialist of being an accountant to analyze more proficiently and efficiently than just a regular person. So when
Mm.
you go into the dating marketplace and you have fixed yourself, you have clarity
Yeah.
where you know what you want and you know what you do not want.
Mm.
But it has to be from a place of knowledge, not a
Yeah.
place of ignorance.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like I was giving you an example of some of the trivial things that people put value on, it's a place of ignorance. And there's a pastor who entertains me. I just wanted to put it out there.
Mm.
It's a Nigerian pastor who was talking about you find it's a Niger, so he has an accent, a Nigerian accent. He was
Mm.
talking about, you find a girl who's 21. She goes, Pastor, she's praying to God, and she's like, God, you know what I want? I want a man with a big house, a big car, a big this. She's outlining like 1,000 things.
Mm.
Then now when she's now 28. She goes, Pastor, I've reduced my list. I just want a man with her. Then when she gets to 35, then she just goes like, Pastor, just give me a man, a man, a man. So
You need to send me that video,
I have
please.
to look for it. I've been looking for it. I can't find it, but I'll definitely put effort to find it. But you look at 20 in this scenario, you have a 21-year-old
Mm.
who has swung the pendulum to one extreme. Then you
Mm.
look at a 35-year-old now who has swung the pendulum to the other extreme as well. A
Mm.
man, a man, a man. Just give me a man.
Just
You know,
anything now. Anything
anything
that
at this
breathes.
point. And here you have one who's have a whole laundry list of what they want. So you
Yeah.
have to be somewhere where you're truly reasonable in the things you want. Because I
Yeah.
always say, you can talk about the standards you want as a woman, but
Mm.
also remember that the person you're looking for also has a standard.
Mm.
So, do you qualify for the men you want? Because
Yeah.
if we're a company, me and you, we're a company and we create a widget, let's say it's a cell phone, and we
Mm.
tell each other this thing is going to be revolutionary. I think the
Mm.
market is going to love it. We love it. So the market is going to love it. We put it on the market. No one buys it. So that's what sometimes happens as a person, man or woman. You
Mm.
can tell yourself, and here you put that phone on the market, you go like, we are selling this for $5,000. 5,000, that's all we're selling it for. Then you put it on the market. No one is willing to pay $5,000.
Mm.
Sometimes as a woman, that's what you're doing, or as a man, you're going like, these are my standards, these are my standards. But you yourself are not of high standard to qualify for what you're saying you want.
Okay, I think you're firing shots now. That's why I like you.
Yeah. So
To
so
anyone
you
who's listening. Mm-mm.
so so that's the point I make, that
Yeah.
when we talk about that thing we spoke about earlier, work on yourself. You have to make sure you have to be like what we have to do. If we create a phone, we have
Mm.
to do market research first. Are the people who are the consumers of cell phones willing to pay 5,000 for this phone?
Mm.
Then we can put it on the market. But they have to, before they put any products on the market, they do that market research. And
Yeah.
sometimes a lot of us, men or women, we go on the marketplace and we haven't done market research and we're demanding things that the level of that man we want or that woman we want, we don't even qualify for. And
Mm.
you're wondering. And to make matters worse, let me ask you a question. Have you ever seen a Rolls Royce a TV commercial for Rolls Royce?
No.
Why? Because they say the people who buy them are not watching TV, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So here you are, you talk about a woman that you want, and all the places you're going to, you do not encounter that woman,
Mm.
and you say that's the woman I want. But the places or a man that you say you want. Let's say you say I want a man who earns 200 pounds, 200,000 pounds.
Mm.
All the places you go to, you never encounter them.
Mm.
But that's what you want. You see, so these are the things I'm simply talking about, that you have to be practical with what you're asking for. If you say
Mm.
you want this, then qualify for it. Be in those places. And when you're in those places, learn, or you can actually find people you can talk to and say, hey, you earn $200. What kind of a woman do you want? I'm just
Mm.
giving, I'm not talking about finances, but
Yeah.
I'm just giving as an example that talk
Mm.
to those men and say, what kind of a woman do you want? As someone who's a high earning man, what kind of woman do you want? And if you learn, then you can fix yourself and say, I want to qualify for them. But the lies that we've been told is you are perfectly fine just as you are.
Yeah.
That's a
And
lie we've been told.
yeah. And I think I feel like sometimes when you've heard something for a lot of times, you start to believe it and you start to think that it's the truth. And I
Correct.
always think that sometimes we want class and we want to attract people that are of a certain class, but then the people that we're hanging around with, like you're saying, like sometimes I always see, it's like girls complain to say, oh, I want a guy that's like this. And then I'm like, go, the half the time you're naked on social media.
Mhm,
You are, you're everywhere. And no offense to self-love and self-care and body empowerment. But then
mhm,
at the same time, I think we lose that practicality or that realistic aspect of it, to say, as much as we may say, oh, I can love myself, there are also some, maybe that man that you're looking for is very much a person that's reserved, and just you may be everything, but just the image that you're presenting could also affect that they're not interested to want to know you, because they're just like, no, this is not who I am. So I think it's also just how you present yourself, the kind of circles that you hang around, and stuff. My next question was going to be, how long should you give it before you figure out life together? But then I think you've just said to me, like, when you value
Yeah,
something, you do it as
just
soon as you can.
I just wanted to add to what you just said
Mm,
before in terms of how you present yourself. So there are things where if you're looking for a guy who's in the corporate space and the places, let's say, let's put an extreme example so that it's much clearer. If you're
mm,
looking for someone who's a politician, you want to date a politician, high profile politician, you
mm,
know the spaces where they go to. There's a level of dignity that they present themselves with.
mm,
Then you have, let's say, it's not a shot at anyone, I'm just saying within the circle uh
mm,
of that dimension, which is politics, you have nose piercing, you have someone is going to go like, you won't be the perfect representation of what I do.
mm,
You see what I'm saying? So you have to be of the representation of the person you're looking for in terms of
mm.
your appearance or even the manner in which you speak as well. So
Yeah.
just wanted to add that. What was
Yeah.
your question? Sorry.
Oh, no, sorry, just to piggyback on that actually as well. I think I was just thinking, even when you said politician, I just thought of the royal family, to say even the
Yep.
princesses, there's a particular way to dress, that
Hmm.
it doesn't matter what you believe, whether you believe you can show off whatever you want to show off. When you're in that realm, there's a certain expectation that you have to keep up if you want to stay within that
Exactly.
environment.
Yes,
Yeah.
definitely.
No, so my next question was like, how long do you give it before you kind of, figure out life together? So maybe, you're in a relationship. I think I was just saying, I mean, you can add to it, but I think from when I was doing the questions, when you just say the sooner, when you value something, you do not take as long, because I've also seen extreme people that have gone 10 years with someone and then they break up, and it's almost as devastating as a marriage,
Hmm.
because you've been together that long. And there's this aspect of wanting to have everything together before you then get on with someone. So it's like, like that balance of time, of like, how long do you give it? Because I think there should really be a timeline, honestly, because some of the numbers you hear in the streets, you just think, how did you, like, how
Hmm.
did you stay that long? and
Hmm.
and then it's the worst thing that you hear, like, oh, I was with him for 10 years, and then the next minute guy met someone and in a month is married.
Exactly. Yep.
So
So how long is going to be really honestly subjective. There's
mm,
no real number that I can place on it,
mm,
but you yourself, you have to study yourself, like we're talking about, you have to treat this as a marketplace. So like
mm,
we're saying, when we were talking about you're putting a widget on the market, you have to know what price you're selling it for, and you have to know how many units we we have to sell. So that has to be clear for you as a person. Not
mm,
it shouldn't be dictated by the person who's coming into your life. You
mm,
have to dictate that and say, hey, uh, uh, but here's what I will add. I
mm,
think you have to, when you communicate these things, like you're saying, pressure and all these things,
mm,
there has to be an essence of, I think there's an under, under, underplaying of women wearing a feminine energy.
mm,
I think these sensitive conversations, you have to be in your feminine energy,
mm.
because when you put on a masculine energy, like, so tell me, how long are we going to be dating until we get married? That's a masculine energy right there. And it's going to be combative, because if you
Yeah.
speak to a man in masculine energy, his response is going to be in masculine energy. And I always tell this to my wife. I say, there's one thing that was not clarified in the Bible,
Mm,
is when Delilah was asking Samson, what gives you strength in your hair? It wasn't
Mm,
simply them sitting down going like, so tell me, what gives you strength? Be honest.
mm,
Then he goes like, it's my hair, it's my hair. It wasn't like that. There
mm,
was a lot of feminine energy that
mm,
even because remember when masculine energy used to come to Solomon to Samson, they used to fail
mm,
because he was the strongest man. So masculine energy used to, so they knew, let's send the feminine energy.
mm.
And he would sit down and say, Samson, do tell me. I would love to know. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
What gives power to your hair? I mean, what gives you power? Just and the way she's talking to him, just the energy that loosened him up.
Mm,
All
mm.
this time, for all these years, the Philistines were trying to get him using masculine energy and force
But
and power and all these things. Didn't work. Feminine energy was all it took. So
yeah.
when you're conversing with a man for sensitive things, and here's the thing, you have to code switch. When you go into whether your workplace, with that masculine energy, it requires that
Mm,
for you to do that. We're talking about projection of this. We got to do this. We got to acquire this company, blah, blah, blah. You got to put on your masculine energy and talk like that. That's how
mm.
people respect you in the workplace. But when you go home, put on your
Eh,
feminine energy. You don't have to put
yeah.
that corporate vibe. I remember I went on a day with a girl who was wearing that corporate vibe. I was like, oh God, I have to be talking like this at work. And there's actually an interview where this one lady asked Oprah Winfrey. I was like, Oprah Winfrey. So when you're with your family, the way you talk, is it? It was a journalist. The way you
Mm.
talk on your show, is that how you talk to your family? Then Oprah Winfrey she's a brilliant lady, so she just fired back and she says, "Well, you're a journalist. The way you're talking to me, I can only imagine. Is this how you talk with your kids? No one talks like that
Yeah.
in your
Yeah.
professional setting." As a journalist or as a politician, no one is talking like that. When I'm at home and
Mm.
I code switch, just like when
Yeah.
I talk to my kids, there's a way I talk with my kids. There's a way I talk with my mom. There's a way I talk with my wife. And the
Mm.
same will also apply if you're talking about these sensitive things. Just put on your feminine energy. And you're being firm.
Mm.
Firm, but in your feminine energy, not in your masculine. When you're
Yeah.
firm in your masculine, oh, good Lord.
Mm.
Good Lord, I'll pray for you.
You get matched
Because
with the
it's gonna be a battle. Because
yeah.
a man wants his senses. Because a man, when he feels confronted by another man,
Mm.
we know it's war.
Mm.
So when he hears that from a woman, what triggers in his mind is it's war. But talk
Mm.
to him in a feminine energy, like, hey, to be honest with you, I don't know how to talk like a feminine person, so I'm just trying to do the best I can here to
Yeah.
imitate. Then you
Yeah.
say, hey, for me, I do not think this whole dating thing should take a long time. And honestly, I value my time, and I really want to take it to the next level with someone
Mm.
I truly care, so that we do not waste. I wouldn't want to waste your time. Neither would I want you to waste my time. And
Mm.
remember, this thing also involves our families at this. So I don't want to waste their time. That they get to know you, I get to I get to know your family, and then we just waste each other's time. So
Mm.
ideally, we should have at least an idea of where we're going and when that destination, where the arrival of that destination, the ETA. So
Mm.
from your position, I'm curious to know when would you think this thing would land?
Mm.
5 years, no, that wouldn't work for me. Honestly, you tell them straight
Yeah.
up. It
Yeah.
wouldn't work for me. Honestly,
Mm.
for me, honestly, I value family. I
Mm.
would love to have kids. I would love to have a husband. And
Mm.
5 years is just far too long for me to have these precious things that I value.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I like that, just to say be firm and say what it is, because I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of people with abandonment issues, people that are afraid of being alone or being afraid of being left alone, that
Mhm.
you almost feel like
Yeah.
there's a right answer that you have to say, that saying what you want will offend the other person.
Mhm.
But I think it's, it's realizing that, if that person is not giving you what you want, then at least at that point, if we're just honest with
If
each
they
other, we can, yeah.
value it, if they value you.
Mm,
See, so if they value you, they will also value your values.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No, that's true. So we're almost getting to an hour and continuing to,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
I talk a lot. You know me, so
No, no, no. This is good. I think we need you back for a part two, definitely. Especially
anytime.
on this femininity. I just think there's so much power in
Hmm.
being a woman, in knowing how to be a woman, not just physically, but
Oh yeah.
knowing how to be a woman. So that needs is on. But I think my last one was obviously going to be the age pressure. So obviously culturally I fell into that trap of 20s. You do what you need to do, get married, finish uni.
Mm,
You don't even know yourself. Nobody cares about that. Hey, you finish uni, so what's next? The next thing is marriage. It doesn't matter whether you're ready for it or you're not. There are also
mm,
some people who got married young that are thriving in their relationships because that worked for them. But there are also some people that I
it
feel like
fails.
sometimes just the age number, especially to a woman, the
Hmm.
moment you mention 30s, you're not married, you don't have a child. It's like the fear of God is struck in you, like, oh, like it's difficult to get pregnant after 30s. And there's all these horror stories that you just like, it's like a system that you're deviating from the system. This is not how it's supposed to run. What would you say to such a woman, considering you're looking to be in a healthy relationship? You do not just want to be in a relationship with just anybody, just for the sake of you getting older.
Mm, it's a tough one. It's
Mm,
because I kid you not. Just this weekend, I was talking to a friend of mine. I'm sure he's comfortable for me sharing this. Obviously, I won't share his name,
mm,
but he was basically saying, he admires what I did because we, like I told you, we're the IKEA couple. We married
yeah.
I got married when I was 26.
Mm,
So the older you grow in your 30s, the pool of good men or good women
mm,
shrinks.
mm,
It shrinks significantly.
yeah.
And then in your 40s, it's just shrink. So he was just going like, I am struggling to find, because now you think about it, he's looking for an Adventist.
Mm.
He's vegan, is looking for a vegan.
Oh dear, it's even.
So they just to find that person who matches you in all those categories that you have, it's
Mm,
just going to be tough because everyone else has already been picked in the late 20s. So when you get
mm,
into your 30s now, because there's this thing where we're going like, oh, because you're in your 30s, it's because men don't want you. It's not, sometimes it's not necessarily that. It's simply that the
mm,
pool is significantly shrunk because all of
mm.
the people are off the market. you know
Yeah.
it's like you get to a market when everyone else is already
At the end
not,
of the day.
yeah. So what I can say is you have to it depends what you truly value, right?
Mm,
Because I always tell people, like, for me, career is not something I don't even call what I do as a career. I
mm.
call it a job,
Yeah.
because for me it's merely a tool that I use to finance, which is the true thing that I care for, which is my family.
Mm,
So you have to review and face the realities of where you are in your life. So you cannot then choose to opt to go with a bad man. So
mm,
there are things where you can go like, this is going to be a good man. And one thing I'll add, let me just add this. When I was not married, I
mm,
wasn't like an ideal boyfriend.
mm.
I was boring. I don't want to lie to you, because the way
Yeah.
I dress, you already know the way I dress.
Yeah.
I wasn't as good as I do it now, but I used to be that guy who goes to a party with a necktie. And I'm like,
Yeah.
this dude, what's wrong with this dude? The women would look at me funny. But you see,
Yeah.
what they didn't recognize is I would possibly make a good husband. He just
Mm.
sucks as a boyfriend.
Yeah.
He's not that guy. He's not the cool guy, but as a husband and as a father. So
Yeah.
that's something that you have to consider. Some people just don't suit well as being a cool boyfriend, but
Mm.
could make a cool father, and another thing is, a lot of times we are looking at someone where we share certain interests, like hobbies, like I like to work out, I like to play chess, I like hiking. I'm looking
Mm.
for someone who, let me tell you something. The many hobbies that we have, me and my wife, when do we get to do that?
Yeah.
The majority of the time, it's we're dealing with values.
Mm,
What are we doing with these kids? Where are we, what are we doing with budget? What are
mm,
values is what we're dealing with, not hobbies. These are trivial things. And
mm,
I'll tell you, like for me, I had to learn to appreciate classical music because I'm married to a musician.
mm,
I had to learn to because now I'm being exposed to what I wasn't exposed to, and then you start appreciating. Now she, without even her playing the music that I'm playing, her music I am playing because I've come to appreciate it. But had it
yeah.
been the idea that me, I love martial arts, which is what I love. I used to take my wife and we would watch martial arts, and she doesn't enjoy seeing blood, but it's a thing where we have we didn't necessarily like each other's hobbies like that, but
Yeah.
as we are married we start sharing those hobbies and we
Mm,
end up liking them. So what's more important is to establish if you guys have the same values. For me it
yeah.
was three things: religion, political views, and culture.
Mm,
These were the three pillars that I tried to make sure best that we align. I'm
mm,
an Adventist. I didn't want someone who's eating pork in the house, so
yeah.
it would have been a problem. Or I go to church on Saturday, she wants to go on Sunday.
Mm,
Problematic. So those things I felt that couldn't be compromised, but some things honestly can be compromised. And I think sometimes people, what they consider as values, they're not necessarily values. They're just things that honestly are not that much valuable in a relationship.
yeah. Yeah. No, thank you very much. Any last word?
Last word. Who am I talking to?
So
It's
you're
very
talking to
difficult because
talk
there
to
are
a
different
young,
ages of people.
yeah, so you're talking to a young woman maybe who is not in a relationship.
Young, okay. If you
Mm,
like, if I'm talking to someone who's young in their 20s, don't be afraid to get married young.
mm,
It's been something that I feel there was a point where women were not being were not be it wasn't promoted to women to get an
mm,
education, to get a career. So to
mm,
correct that issue, I think we swung the pendulum to the extreme opposite side to
yeah.
say focus on your education, focus on your career, focus. Then we for the a lot of, especially my generation, they were foregoing starting a family.
Mm,
Then when they got into their 30s and 40s, they realized and the pool shrinks significantly, like we said. So
mm,
do not be afraid to get married even while you're in school. You can,
mm,
like we did, I was married. My wife, she was already done her masters. I was still doing my undergrad. But what we
mm,
did was we said we're not going to have kids.
mm,
We're married. Uh, what I'll do is once I graduate, I have the ideal job, then we can start having kids after that.
mm,
So the thing I think, at least for me, I think that spoils people to be able to pursue the ideal career that they want is maybe the
mm,
kids, but to be married, not necessarily. And if
yeah.
you have someone who you marry who's understanding, who really cares for you, they're willing to say, let's be patient with the kids. We
Yeah.
understand. And they're logical enough to recognize that maybe it's not the ideal time.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid of marriage while you're young, but do not hold off too long. I think it's a lie that was told to a lot of women, and not a lie, but it has worked for some people. Obviously, we
Mm,
have to acknowledge that, but it's a risky thing. It's a risky
mm,
thing. That's what I.
yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Uncle T, for coming onto my show and explaining very deep gems, some subtle shots which were fired. I'm still stuck
No,
on you
no.
need to make sure you qualify for the men that you want. I'm stuck on that.
Oh my goodness, you're gonna get me in trouble. So, but
I'm stuck
no,
on don't worry, don't I'll protect you. They'll never find you. But yeah, no, thank you very much. I honestly think that when I was in therapy a couple of years back, they
mhm,
one of the things my therapist said to me was saying you need to get used to having conversations with the opposite sex that you
mhm,
have now interest in. Just have interest, have conversations, because I feel like the age that we're going, the person that you're talking to, you have the intention of dating them, that we're so much stringent on like dating. Do you like me or do you not like me? That we don't actually know how to have a conversation. But when you get used to surrounding yourself with masculine energy, you understand how they think, you understand what they say, you're able to be in, you can see things that just because a guy says hi, you don't just automatically think that, oh yeah, they like me. And that's part of this year for me. It's like we need to get used to hear from the other side, because when we're doing women's conferences, we lie to each other. No, 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 no. Men can do this, but it doesn't matter. And it's like we're feeding each other with all these things that are not true.
Mm.
But at the end of the day, it's like, no, I would like a healthy man. So if you want a healthy man, what other way can you do? You go to the host, you go right where they are and find out
Mhm.
how do you see this person. So no, thank you very much for coming. You
It
definitely
was a
coming back
pleasure.
for that feminine energy, feminine, how to speak to a man. We need to talk about that, because yeah.
I'm not an expert in feminine energy,
No,
but
no, 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 not from the other side, from the
yeah,
other
from the other
side.
side. Oh, yeah, most certainly. I can share my 2 cents on it. But
Yeah,
thank
yeah,
you for having me. It was truly a pleasure. I don't know everything, I don't know much, and there's still things I'm also still learning and growing. So,
yeah,
yeah, I can share the little I have, and I
yeah.
appreciate you having me.
No, thank you for sharing the little that the little in quotes, which is a lot to us. So yeah, thank you, and I hope that you have a blessed evening today.
Yeah. Thank you so much. You too. Take
All
care.
right, bye.